Go back to your father's house and be a widow, and then when my youngest son gets old enough, I'll let you have him. Now, he wasn't about to do that. He didn't want 3. I mean, this is his last one. And so he's thinking, there's something cursed about this woman that ain't got enough sense to realize that his sons were punished for their own sins and had anything to do with their wife. Well, she saw that he wasn't going to give that youngest son to her, so somebody told her that Judah was traveling up their way to tend the sheep. So she took her widow's garments off and put on the harlot's garments. Stood out on the side of the road with her foot all out there. And had her face covered. Judah didn't recognize her. And said, hey, little lady, you mind if I stay with you for the night? And she said, well, what are you going to give me for that? He said, I'll send you a sheep and a goat. That's appropriate. He was acting like an old goat. My mama had a phrase about guys that did stupid things. She said, no fool like an old fool. I guess that's true. But she said, well, have you got a security? You got something you give me to make sure you send that to me? See, I mean, she was a good harlot, get the money first. So he left his bracelets and his staff, ring. She could see. And then she left. When he sent the guy back to sheep and goat, couldn't find anybody, and said, where's that harlot that was all around? He said, there ain't no harlots around here. It's a good community. And then 3 months later, Judah is told, well, Tamar played the harlot, she's pregnant. He said, bring her here and let's burn her. Well, that's good daddy, ain't it? Good daddy, Mom. And she went to him privately and said, can you identify these things? Well, I love that bit there. I mean, that's almost right up there with Nathan the prophet telling David, you the man. Really? And Judah said, well, you're more righteous than me. And he had 2 more sons. She had twins. 2 more sons there. They're right in the line. Right in the line of Jesus. Judah, the line, tribe of Judah. Isn't that amazing? Well, what a sorry father. And I think the sorriness of these older boys in their fathering was a direct result of them not honoring their father. And a side thing was because they had an unforgiveness in their own life for their brother Joseph. I'll tell you something, folks. An unforgiving spirit is the most destructive thing that can take place in anybody's life. You've got to find a way to forgive. Got to. Very key. Absolutely key. Well, Joseph honored his father. But Joseph also was happy in his own marriage. Now, he didn't have the privilege of going back to Padan Aram and marrying somebody in the right family. He had to marry a woman, Asenath. I guess that's how you pronounce that Egyptian name. And she was the daughter of a priest who served as a priest of the sun god Ra. How about that? Isn't that something that, son, you need to marry a Christian girl? Well, there wasn't none there. There wasn't anybody in Egypt except this girl that Pharaoh gave him. And Joseph, instead of griping about that, accepted her as a gift from God. And from all we can see in their relationship, Joseph was very happy with this girl. And when that first son was born, he named him Manasseh, which means forgetfulness. He said it's made me forget all the bad stuff that's going on. Isn't that a great name? Oh, this boy has brought me such joy because I love this woman, and you give me this child, God's made me forget all about it. And when Ephraim was born, you know what that means? That means fruitful. He's fruitful. God has blessed me. And he learned that it didn't matter where you are. You didn't have to be in the promised land to get the blessing of God. You just need to be in the Lord's hand to get the blessing of God. Joseph was right where God wanted him to be. And he was a good father because he was a happy husband. Tell you what, happy husbands make good fathers. Ladies, this is where you can help. And you know, we need a lot of help, don't we, guys? I mean, let's face it. We need a lot of help, and you know, you just need to accept the help that God gives you with a godly wife. You know, you can face anything in this world. God's on your side. Spouse is in your corner. When that falls apart, it is devastating. Even though God's still on your side, God's still helping. It's devastating. Marriage breaks up. It's tough. That's why I'm so glad, folks, listen to me. That's why I'm so glad to be in a church that is filled with grace. I'm so glad to be in a church that is filled with grace. I've seen how you treat folks whose families have broken up. You love one another. You accept one another. You bless one another. Don't ever stop that. Let me tell you something. There is not a sin that any of us has committed that God has forgiven that we also don't need to forgive each other. Not a one. And there's not a one of us who hasn't committed some sin that we're ashamed for. So we all stand in need of grace. Big time grace. The third thing I noticed about Joseph being a godly father and a great parent is that he was able to help his children receive God's blessing. Now, it was given through Israel, his dad. And I think we need to get back more to this kind of thing. You know, we may not know exactly when we're going to die. You know, Jacob knew that. He knew he was about to die. He called all his sons in, blessed them all. But he gave this special blessing to Joseph, and indeed gave Ephraim and Manasseh a share in the division of the land, really, by his blessing. So Joseph got a double portion in the inheritance. Nobody seemed to mind about that then because reconciliation had taken place and the family was made whole. But Joseph wanted his children to be blessed. And since we may not know when our time is coming, guys, wouldn't it be a good idea if we passed a blessing on our children? Take some time. Pass that blessing on your children. Brother Bob Hazel did that for his family the other month. Man, what a blessing that was. I appreciate that. I'm glad, thankful that you invited me to be a part of that hospital room. Blessing for your children. We all need to help our children receive blessings of God. Part of that is making them available to God, like Joseph made his children available to Israel. He brought them there to see him. Even though the man was old, kids might not, they might have been afraid of the guy for all I know. They'd never seen this man. And yet, he brought them there, and he hugged them and kissed them, and he gave a great blessing to them. Wasn't exactly what Joseph wanted. Joseph tried to manipulate the blessing. But do you notice how submissive he was to his father? When his father said, I know, what I'm good. Crossed his hands on those boys' heads. And Joseph backed off, let his father give the blessing, allowed his sons to receive blessing.